But then again, it was a bit risky, so I put out my money then. So now I'm actually thinking of going back in again. The only thing that I'm actually afraid of is I'm going to be addicted to it again, like checking the graphs every single day, every 30 minutes or stuff like that. So that's why I'm really excited to be here so I can get your expertise on how I can actually invest with Bitcoin without being invested with it too much, like emotionally.
Welcome to Sat Chats, the Bitcoin podcast where we chat about sats. Sats are the smallest part of a Bitcoin, the same way pennies are the smallest part of a dollar. With Sat Chats, we are building the world's biggest Bitcoin welcome center to serve as your gateway to generational wealth. So if you're brand new to Bitcoin, we want to chat about sats with you. Head to satchats.com to grab your slot in the studio today. I'm your host, Stuart Bitcoin Maxi, who wears prescription sunglasses to protect you and your loved ones from my Bitcoin laser eyes.
I'm Lion Pelto, and I am the Beef Slurp founder and CEO and the engineering creative director here at Bitcoin. We are building the best Sat Chats Welcome Center. If you're within the first 100,000 subscribers, you have a chance to get 10 million sats dropped from a plane on your house. So just subscribe. Your house doesn't actually suffer any damages, though. Also, we're on the road to number 99, my mother.
Yes, that's right. So it's going to be a super slurpy episode with your mom here. So she's number 99, and I'm going to try to help her see why she should let me buy more Bitcoin every week for this family. But today in the studio, we've got number 82, Rafael, in the studio, in the virtual studio here. So we're only like 17 episodes away, which is crazy. Mm-hmm. So Rafael has himself a Bitcoin story, and he's also got some questions to ask us. So we're going to be grabbing all of that here on today's episode. But before we get started with all that, Rafael, help our satillionaires out there in the audience get to know you a little bit better.
Yeah. So again, thank you so much for inviting me on this podcast. I'm really happy to be here. So just a quick intro about me. So my name's Rafael. You guys can call me Rafa. I'm actually based here in the Philippines. So again, very excited to be here. I'm actually part of the offshore team for PodPitch. So what we actually do is we help other people get invited on other people's podcasts, and that's how I was able to find Sat Chats.
Okay, we love that, man. And it's a huge help to have services like PodPitch because we shoot 8 shows each week along with a live show on Fridays. So let's jump into it here, Rafa. How much, I guess you kind of have a Bitcoin story. So tell us what it was like. What kind of problems were you facing? What was your life like before you found Bitcoin?
Yeah, so the first time that I actually heard of Bitcoin was probably around 2014, 2015. During that time, I had one Bitcoin, and then it was around like $800, right?
Oh.
So a friend actually told me about it, and then basically he told me about, hey, this is something that you can invest your money in. And then I was happy during that time because every day I'm seeing like I gain like 1%, 2% of that time, but during that time as well, I had a kid. So I had no choice but to sell it.
Okay.
Right? And then after that, I was surprised. When was the first bloom of Bitcoin? Like 2016?
I think the biggest bull run that everybody thinks about was in 2016 or maybe 2017, where it kind of went from a couple of thousand up to like $20,000.
That's correct. So basically what happened then was I went back because I saw the potential of Bitcoin. So I spent a lot of money on it. I invested on it. I didn't tell my wife about it. And then the downside is, everyone was talking about, hey, this is the way that you can actually retire early. This will make you rich, all of that stuff. Everyone was talking about like altcoins. The only thing is I chose a bad, what they call like Binance, a platform. Like, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with Cryptopia, but what I did was I invested like $2,000 on it, and then I left it there. But Cryptopia got hacked, so I lost all of my money. during
Ooh.
that time, right?
Ooh.
Which actually makes me want to bang my head through the wall, because with the $2,000 that I invested, $500 of that money was in Dogecoin.
Dog coin or is DOGE?
Yeah,
Doge coin?
Dogecoin. Sorry about that. So that's why, like right now, I'm still like banging my head through the wall. If I had that money, I don't even check it anymore, because I'm actually thinking to myself, how much money would that be right now,
Uh-huh.
right? So yeah, so that's what happened with that. And then the next time that I encountered Bitcoin again was the second bull run during the pandemic. It was way better for me during that time, because I was into like NFTs. Like I'm not sure if you guys in the US are familiar with Axie, but I made a couple of money there, right?
Okay.
But then again, it was a bit risky, so I pull out my money then. So now I'm actually thinking of going back in again. The only thing that
Going
I'm
back
actually
to
afraid of
Bitcoin?
is I'm going to be addicted to it again, like checking the graphs every single day, every 30 minutes or stuff like that. So that's why I'm really excited to be here, so I can get your expertise on how I can actually invest with Bitcoin without being invested with it too much, like emotionally.
Yeah,
Like,
okay.
so what currency is used on your Philippine island?
It's actually called Philippine peso.
The
That's
peso,
cool.
the Philippine peso. Okay. All right. So, and why do you ask that line?
Cause I just want to know.
Yeah, yeah. I think a lot of people here in America too believe that the only thing Bitcoin is exchangeable for is the US dollar. And they don't understand that anyone's currency can be exchanged for Bitcoin, right? Because when you're buying Bitcoin, you're exchanging your Philippine peso for Bitcoin, correct?
That's correct. That's correct. So basically, what we do is we transfer it to US dollars first and then to Bitcoin.
Oh, interesting. So you
Mhm.
actually do exchange the peso for the dollar and then the dollar for Bitcoin.
Yeah, because basically it will be like the exchange rate would be different if you transfer it directly to Bitcoin. So what we do is Philippine peso to USDC and then to Bitcoin.
Okay, okay. To the USDC, to like that stable coin?
Yeah, so basically either stable, you use a USDC, but when I was trading, I was actually using the Binance USD because my platform was Binance. Mhm.
All right, all right. So let's walk back through that real quick, Line. Number one, Rafa bought a Bitcoin for $800.
That's worth a lot of money now.
And it's incredible to think about $800 becoming $104,000.
525. That's a lot.
Right, because the potential to benefit is unlike any other thing that you could possibly put your money into. Because if Rafa had spent $1,600, that would be $210,000.
Oh,
And if he had spent
lot.
not $800, but $5,000, then he would, let's see here. Wait. If he did 3,200, he would have like $450,000. I mean,
It would be
if
a
he
lot of money.
basically, yeah, like if he had spent like $6,000 or $7,000 back then, he would be a millionaire.
Yeah.
And that, but so
That's
that
Bitcoin. Dogecoin.
yeah,
Yeah.
Dogecoin probably is worthless. The $500 you put into Dogecoin is probably worth nothing. But the point here is not to double down on your desire to bang your head on the wall there, Rafa. The point is for our beginners to realize that Bitcoin is going to do that all over again.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can buy $800 today, or if you can buy $50 a month each month for 12 to 15 months until you reach that $800 number, then if you give it another 10 years or so, you'll be a millionaire all over again, because Bitcoin is only going to do one thing, and that's go up.
Mm-hmm.
But you had a kid, and I can tell you, these things here are expensive, aren't they, Rafa?
They are.
Dude,
They are.
being a parent is an expensive hobby. Am I right?
That's correct.
Man, it'd be cheaper for me just to pick up disc golfing or crocheting or something. But I'm like, you know what I want to do with my spare time? Be a dad. So you had to sell the Bitcoin that you had in order to make ends meet for your family. Can you remember at which price point you sold?
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Like probably I sold it around $800 to $900 range. Basically, I held it in for like 3 months or the 2 to 3 months, I think.
Okay. So you were only in for a few months. All right. So first of all, let's take a minute and we'll all give each other an air hug here so that we can help you deal with the trauma of selling your Bitcoin, because that it's perfectly okay to do what you did, right? When you approach Bitcoin as an investment, then you start to feel really bad when you sell it for something and watch Bitcoin move on without you and do what Bitcoin does. But when you think about Bitcoin like money, I mean, nobody gets upset about making money, saving money, spending money.
That's
You
correct.
had some money and then you used that money to support your family. That is 100% normal, natural, expected, and okay. So, you can give yourself a break for doing what you needed to do. And, you can love yourself and accept yourself. And it's okay, Rafa, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because Bitcoin is money, just like the Philippine peso, just like the US dollar. Now, you found it again during the bull run of did you find it again in the bull run of 2017 or during the 2020 pandemic?
During the 2020 pandemic. Yep.
But you bought $1,500 worth of Bitcoin and $500 worth of Dogecoin. But you put it on an exchange. You left it on an exchange, correct? Right. So you didn't, we talk about self-custody on the show. Lion, can you explain for our beginners what self-custody is?
A self-custody is when you own it yourself, whereas an exchange, the amount, when you own it yourself, how much it's valued will go up and down, but the amount of sats you have will never change. If you leave it on an exchange, the amount of sats will also change.
No, that's not how it works. It's more like this. If you buy Bitcoin and leave it on an exchange, it's like buying Ithaca hummus and putting it in someone else's fridge. If you take Bitcoin into self-custody, it's like buying Ithaca hummus from the store and putting it in your fridge. Or an even better way to say this would be leaving your Bitcoin on a Bitcoin exchange is like going to the grocery store, buying Ithaca hummus from the grocery store and leaving it in their fridge, leaving it on the shelf, right?
Could never.
But buying Bitcoin on a Bitcoin exchange and taking it into self-custody is like going to the grocery store, buying Ithaca hummus and taking it home with you and putting it in the fridge. So you bought Bitcoin on which exchange, Rafa? Can you remember?
Yeah, it's called Cryptopia.
Cryptopia. And then you left it there and Cryptopia said, "Okay, Rafa, this Bitcoin right here, it's got your name on it, my friend, 100%, okay? You can trust us." And then what happened next?
It got hacked.
Cryptopia got hacked.
Mm-hmm.
And did the hackers steal Cryptopia's Bitcoin?
Yep, pretty much.
And what meant, and that meant that they stole your Bitcoin, right? Because your Bitcoin was with Cryptopia, and it's almost like your money was in a bank. Your money, your gold was in the bank, and some robbers came in and they stuck up the bank and they grabbed the gold and left, right? So Cryptopia got hacked and your Bitcoin went with it.
That's correct.
Oh, man alive, Rafa. So first of all, we're very sorry to hear that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it is, there are many exchanges that have been hacked. I mean, they're juicy targets. They're juicy targets. I mean, they're just advertising themselves online as places for Bitcoin, right? So if you're thinking about each individual human who controls the keys to their Bitcoin in a wallet on their smartphone or their desktop versus a Bitcoin exchange, which has the Bitcoin of hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands of people, Lion, if you're going to be a robber who are you going to try to rob? Individual people over and over again, or one big old spot?
Probably the big spot, unless the single person is like a whole lot of money.
A whole lot. Okay.
If it's a whole lot, then I'm obviously just gonna go the one guy. Or let me say this better: if one person has more money than the big collection, then I'm gonna rob the one guy, because it's more profitable for me to rob the one guy than it is for me to rob the big collection, because there's more money.
Wow. Okay. Mind of a criminal over here, Rafa. Holy
Yeah,
smokes.
mine is a really smart kid.
We're going to have to like have a conversation in the car on the way home. Like, all right, son, now for real, dude, how are you thinking like that? Because he's like, I'm giving him two choices. Like, well, actually, I'd go after a whale. It's like, okay, appreciate it.
Actually, I want the one that has more money for me.
So if you had taken the Bitcoin off Cryptopia into a wallet on your smartphone or on your computer and protected your seed phrase, you would still have that Bitcoin today. I mean, did Cryptopia have did they do anything to try to?
Yeah, they said they did. Like after a couple of months, they sent us an email telling us that they filed a lawsuit with the people and everything, but it just died down. Nothing happened.
Okay, so you weren't returned any money in the form of Bitcoin or
Nothing.
US dollars or Philippine pesos.
Nothing.
Ugh.
Mhm.
Ugh.
Can't get compensated. Like, then you should probably just go rob some more. You should go like.
Your recommendation is that since Rafa got robbed, he should go rob somebody?
No, listen,
Bro.
he didn't get any compensation. You should go rob the people who like do Cryptopia and get and just like, okay, this is compensation.
All right, so now we've got criminal mastermind recommending vigilante justice. Dude, who is parenting this child?
No.
Dude, I don't feel like I've given him any reason to think this way. So, better yet would be that, to do like Rafa has done and learn your lesson, move on, keep rolling, right? Because now if you were to buy Bitcoin, would you ever leave it on an exchange after having had that experience? No.
Especially if my goal is if my goal is just to hold it in, I would use a separate wallet on it. Like and I did learn my lesson. The next time that I actually invested on it, I forgot what it's called, but basically it's like Trezor. Is it called Trezor?
Yes. Yeah.
Like the private wallet key that you have. So I did learn my lesson. So I think for people that are listening to this, like that's one thing. But if you're going to invest on something or put your money on something, make sure you do your due diligence, do your research first, so you don't make any mistakes. And I think that's the main reason why we're doing this, right? We want to help out other people, learn from our mistakes, and then hopefully everyone will be successful after this.
Yes. So after you got your Bitcoin taken away from you because you never really controlled it in the first place, have you bought any Bitcoin since that moment, or are you are you kind of trying to figure out how to get yourself back into Bitcoin with all your lessons learned?
Yeah. So since then, again, I was able to invest on it again during the pandemic boom. Right.
Okay.
But during that time, Bitcoin is okay, but you're already thinking like, if I invest my money on Bitcoin, then it's not going to grow as much. So I focus more on like altcoins and meme coins. And then during that time, NFTs was really big as well. So
Okay.
that's where I actually put most of my money in. And that's when I actually earned a bit of money back.
Okay.
Like what coins?
All right. So let's focus then on our recommendations for how to rebuild your Bitcoin discipline in a way that will be sustainable, in a way that will eliminate risk, and like you said, in a way that will eliminate the emotions that come alongside what some feel is the kind of ups and downs of Bitcoin, and also the obsession of checking the charts and all that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I can identify with you in terms of that like daily price obsession. And I was never a chart guy, because that's just not what speaks to me. You know, my brother and my dad went through like a Wall Street stock trading phase where they were looking at Japanese candle charts and getting into the highs and the lows, the upswings. They were drawing lines. I mean, it basically just seems like an internal form of madness where you are just studying this kind of visual representation of trading and attempting to make some form of, you know, reliable prediction off of it. That's not what that's not what appealed to me. My grandfather traded the stock market just by looking at the price itself in the newspaper each day. So for me, that kind of translated into checking Clark Moody's dashboard 3 to 12 times a day.
What I would say is don't check it that many times because you're not going to get anything done. What I recommend is if you choose to buy Bitcoin once a week, look at the price then.
And actually, if you're going to buy each week, you can just kind of ignore the price after a while. But I can identify with Rafa's desire to like follow the price of Bitcoin very closely. And I think that everyone goes through a price mania with Bitcoin in the beginning of their stacking journey, right? So one thing I heard from your initial foray into Bitcoin is that you only held it for a few months before having to sell it again, right? One thing that we recommend on this show is that you invest slowly over time so that you're only really putting aside the money that you know you're not going to need. And
really, you're not investing. It's more like you're going to like that money exchange thing at like the airport. It's like, okay, I'm going to exchange X amount of dollars.
Yes. I think at the beginning of your Bitcoin journey, it's going to be you thinking about Bitcoin as an investment, you thinking about Bitcoin as something it's like you're buying it like an asset, like it's a stock or a bond or a piece of real estate. As you continue your Bitcoin journey, you'll get to where my son has gotten here, which bless this young man. You'll realize that Bitcoin is simply money that's going to work in the future. And you're trying to exchange your Philippine pesos, which your government is printing however much they want of at any time for any reason, for a form of money that they cannot control. They cannot devalue it. They cannot debase it. And your Bitcoin is going to work whether you're in America, the Philippines, India, England, all that stuff. But in the beginning, it's okay to think about Bitcoin as an investment or as an asset because it is those things. It is those things and it is money at the same time. But we want you to start buying Bitcoin and holding it for the long term so that you can benefit from what Bitcoin does, Bitcoin goes from 800 to 100,000. Bitcoin goes from 100,000 to 1 million. Bitcoin goes from 1 million to 10 million. Bitcoin goes from 10 million to 44 million. And number 14, Robert, he's talking about Bitcoin going to $100 million per coin. Bitcoin's only really, there we go. Baseball. Yeah. Clap for Bitcoin. So what you have to understand, Rafa, is that Bitcoin is going to do again what it already did. So no matter when you get into Bitcoin, that is the right time to get into Bitcoin. And no matter what you've done with Bitcoin in the past, whether you bought it and then sold it or, got hacked and lost it, you just pick up the pieces and you continue to buy Bitcoin. But there's a special way to buy Bitcoin, Rafa, that's going to make it emotion free. And it's going to help you get your face out of the charts and into, your kids' lives and just be a dad and a worker and, just love your life that way, right?
Dollar cost averaging.
That's right. Dollar cost averaging. Lion's whispering it like it's a secret over here. But are you familiar with dollar cost averaging? Or really, I guess in your term, in your case, it might be peso cost averaging, but are you familiar with dollar cost averaging?
Yeah, I've heard of it before. Like basically, what you do is you really don't look at the numbers in terms of what you're buying. Like maybe for this June, it's 100K. Next month, it's 102. Next month, it's 98,000. Doesn't really matter because again, you're mainly invested in the long term, and then you'll average that number within within a year or within 6 months, and then at the end of that 6 months or to a year, you're not really doing that bad.
Yes, yes. I mean, you basically engineer a situation, Rafa, where you are always in the green.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you buy a small amount regularly over time, then you create a cost basis for yourself that's kind of somewhere in the middle. If you start buying at $100,000 and Bitcoin gets up to $500,000 and you're buying little pieces all along the way, then your cost basis is kind of around $300,000 and you are in the green. You're doing great. And it takes the emotion out of it because you're taking a low, slow, unemotional, consistent, dependable, regular approach to converting your money from one form to another.
And if you can get it to where like you can do like jobs and get paid in Bitcoin, your dollar cost average goes down, and that means your amount that you've made goes up.
Your cost basis goes down, right? Because, Lion bought $50 worth of Bitcoin a while ago, Rafa. And since then, he's been doing work around his granddad's house, and his granddad has been paying him in Bitcoin. So he made, he did 2 days of work to help open the pool and got paid 25,000 sats. He did a little bit more work last weekend to help get ready for his granddad's brother to show up, and he got paid 10,000 sats. So,
cool.
Lion's point is, if you can find ways to get paid in Bitcoin, then your cost basis that you're building with your dollar cost average strategy is going down because you're paying $0 for that Bitcoin. So, to be fair, if you're buying a little bit all the time and Bitcoin is going down, let's say it goes from 100,000 back down to 80,000, well, then your cost basis kind of ends up at 90,000 and you are in the red, but you just keep buying regularly. And as Bitcoin does what it does, it climbs back above 90, back above 100, then 110. And your cost basis is really juicy because with a dollar cost average, you're buying it while it's high, you're buying it while it's low, you're buying it while it's in the middle, and you're protecting yourself from smashing a lump sum into Bitcoin at the top and then having it go down, and then you need to wait for it to come back up, right?
Yeah.
So on this show, Rafa, we recommend that our brand new Bitcoiners buy $50 each month.
Mm-hmm.
Because here in America, a single trip to, your local restaurant for dinner is $50.
That's correct. Mm-hmm.
Can you eat at the house one time and skip the meal out one time in order to start building generational wealth over time? But if you have if you have the means, it can be even better to buy $50 a week.
Mm-hmm.
And there was actually one fellow on Reddit who bought $20 each day for 8 years, Rafa.
Wow.
And $20 each day over 8 years means he converted $56,000 into Bitcoin. But with the way that Bitcoin works, he's a multimillionaire now.
He is.
Multimillionaire. Because the $20 he bought on day one of his 8-year journey is worth so much more than $20. It might be worth 200 or 2,000. And he was doing that every day, exchanging $20 for $2,000, just gangbustering his way to the top. So dollar cost averaging is where you and you and your family, you take a look at how much you can reasonably set aside basically as a form of savings. And you look at whether you can spare 20 pesos a week, or let's call it 50 pesos a week, or 50 pesos a month,
or 50 pesos a day,
or 50 pesos a day, or even 50 pesos a quarter. Like, how much can you buy and how often? And let me ask you, let me stop real quick, just off the top of your head. And this has to be money that you really can do without for the long run. You know, where you're never going to feel like you need to draw on this to cover an emergency, like a flat tire or a broken air conditioning system, right?
Or a broken bone.
Or a broken bone. How much do you think you can buy, and how often do you think you can do it right now off the top of your head?
I could probably do $100 per month.
$100 a month. Okay, beautiful.
Oh, nice.
$100 a month is double what we recommend our beginners do. And that's fantastic. You're going to be cranking twice as fast. Now, here's what you can do, Rafa. If you go to Bitcoin Well, I don't know if you can use Bitcoin Well or not. They're a Canadian company, and I think they work in Canada and the United States. But which Bitcoin exchange would you use today in the Philippines?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I'm not really sure because they have cracked down on cryptocurrency here in the Philippines. And again, I haven't found time to do my research yet, but we do have like local cryptocurrency exchanges
Okay.
that I can use, so I can do this as well.
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, oof, right? It's so tough when a nation state realizes that we have built our own value network that is superior to theirs. And they go, wait, this only works if you use our money,
It's like
right?
the Matrix.
It's like the Matrix.
The Matrix only works if everyone is plugged in.
Ooh, yikes. The Matrix only works if everyone is plugged in. They're like, Rafa, but we need you to work hard to earn Philippine pesos and then pay taxes in Philippine pesos so that we can print as many pesos as we want without actually collecting that money to do whatever we want as a government. So do your research to find where you can get Bitcoin. And if you wouldn't mind, come back to the comments section of your episode and leave a comment for all of our Filipino viewers about your experience so that they know where they can go, right? Because one of our top satillionaires, at least for a while, was a lady named Jonna Falculin who lived in the Philippines. And she went absolutely nuts during our Million Sats giveaway.
Jonah, there's 10 million sats now. Please come back.
Yeah.
Please.
Come on back, Jonna. And Rafa, if you subscribe to Sat Chats, you'll be entered for your chance to win 10 million sats, which is $10,510 by today's standards, which would be responsible for what, 100 months of dollar cost averaging for you, which is 12, 24, 36. That's 8 years of dollar cost averaging for Rafa in 1 minute.
And it would lower your cost basis by
a whole bunch.
It would make your cost basis like $1,000 or something.
It would be incredible for you. So subscribe and hopefully you'll win, Rafa. Now, find where you can buy yourself some Bitcoin, but make sure that when you buy it, it is getting right into your wallet as soon as possible, right? Whether that's your smartphone, whether that's your laptop, whether that's your Trezor cold wallet, make sure that when you're buying your $100 a month, it's getting to you and you control the keys because you're a whole lot harder to find and hack than online exchanges are, right? They're subject to attacks around the clock and you are not, okay? Now, two options for you, Rafa. One would be to buy $100 a month and to buy it in an automatic kind of recurring preset way, right? So here in America, I use Bitcoin Well, and each week on Monday mornings, they buy $54 worth of Bitcoin for me, and they send it directly to my wallet, okay? It doesn't matter what the price is. It doesn't matter what's going on. I'll be buying the top forever, Rafa, and I'm going to have a fat smile on my face while I do it because if you buy the top all the way up, you're actually halfway below the top at all times.
Or here's another option. You could buy $25 a week, but it's still automated, but you could just do 25 a week.
Yes. Now you could kind of break up your dollar cost average even further by buying $25 a week, and you're taking smaller nibbles out of the price, right? So whether it's $100 a month or $25 a week, those are both options for you, but you're finding a way to automate that, Rafa, so that the emotions come out of it. The candles and the charts and all that madness of refreshing the price goes away, because you're stacking sats each week or each month, no matter what, and you're taking a solid long-term approach to Bitcoin, which can only result in you building generational wealth for your family, while the rest of the Filipinos who haven't found this out yet don't have to work harder and harder to buy the same things that used to be cheaper, and they're not going to understand why, right? Now, there is a third option, okay? If you actually like, let's say you like trading, let's say you like charts, let's say you like candles, let's say you like refreshing the price. Maybe you don't want to do it to an insane degree, but if you want, you could check the price of Bitcoin like once or twice each day, okay?
Or once a week.
Well, hear me out. Once or twice each day, Rafa. And when you see that Bitcoin's taking a bit of a dip, you buy that $100 in that moment. So basically, you're still dollar cost averaging each month, but you're kind of taking a little bit of your trader tendencies to kind of look for your moment to jump in that month. But it's kind of like a more manually driven dollar cost average, but you could potentially grind out a couple of extra Satoshis per purchase. If it's at 105 and then you see, hey, it actually dipped to 99, you get it there and you're like, okay, that's it. And then you don't start checking it again until next month. And you look for your moment, okay? That's a third option. I wouldn't recommend it. I just think you should set it and forget it, because it's going to work, period, over a long enough period of time. But you could do that.
So that's one thing that's actually resonating with me, because technically, like, for example, let's say I'm earning like $1,500 per month, and then actually going to be spending $100 of my money buying Bitcoin. All I need to tell myself is, you're not earning $1,500 anymore. You're only earning $1,400. You do the adjustments. But then again, what you're saying, that's what actually resonates with me the most, is I can share this with my kids. I can share this with my family. Like the one thing that you mentioned, like with Lion, I think I'm going to start doing that with my kids as well, because most of the time that's what they actually do for me. Like for the kids right now, with the generation that they are, you can't have them do anything without them getting something out of it. I'm not sure if that's the same thing with you guys there in the US, but basically here, if I tell my daughter to clean her room, I need to bribe her with like 100 peso before she cleans her room.
How much is 100 peso in USD?
So that's around $2.
$2.
Mm-hmm. So like if a person as young as Lion actually understands Bitcoin, I think if I can have them watch a couple of your shows, I can convince them that, hey, don't accept the 100 peso anymore. I'll just give you sats. And that's even better for you, that you can actually enjoy that. Like once you turn 18, like we can do some numbers out of it. And I think they can get more excited with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And his episode is number 38. So So you're number 82, and if you go to our Sat Chats playlist on YouTube and scroll down, his episode is number 38, and it's a great episode for kids.
Yeah, I'll take note of that.
There's a kid in the comments who watched Lion's episode, was like, bam, okay, I'm gonna start stacking sats, because you can show your kids that if they start now, by the time that they are your age, they're going to be, jumping out of a helicopter into an Olympic-sized pool full of candy and Jello, dude. It's going to be amazing. So how do you feel after we've had this conversation about getting back into Bitcoin the right way?
So right now, all I'm thinking about is I do my research on where I can buy Bitcoin, and I need to find a way on how I can automate it. So I'm
Yeah.
not really. I already looked at Bitcoin well. I don't think they cater to us, but
Yeah.
maybe there's a different way on how I can actually do this. But I think that's the main thing that I'll be doing moving forward. Like my emotion
Yes.
will be out of it because technically I'm just thinking like, yeah, someone's getting $100 for me, um, like every week or every month. But basically, if I'm going to be on this, which I think I am, like I believe that guy. I watched it on one of the Facebook reels. Like there was one guy telling us that within 10 years or 15 years, Bitcoin will be to 100 million.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Right. So I'm pretty positive about that.
Yeah, dude. Amazing. So people and people will look at Bitcoin, they're like, well, Bitcoin's $105,000. It's too expensive. Dude, if it's gonna go to 200 million, 105,000 means it's basically free. It's basically free. So so let's do this. Let's recap the conversation with Rafa. Great conversation today. Rafa works for a service that helps find guests for podcasts, which is great for a company like ours. He's out there in the Philippines, and he found Bitcoin when it was about $800. He held it only for a few months before needing to sell it again to support his family, and that's okay. That is using Bitcoin because it's money. That is using Bitcoin like money, and that's the best thing you can do. He found it again during the pandemic. He got in for about $1,500, but left it on an exchange. The exchange got hacked. Bitcoin go bye-bye. That hurts. But all we got to do is pick up the pieces and keep going in the right way. And the right way to work with Bitcoin is slowly over time. If you take a lump sum and smash it into Bitcoin,
Like Mr. Chris.
You better be so convicted in Bitcoin that you don't care, or you need to hang on for the ups and downs and the roller coaster rides. Better to figure out how much you can reasonably set aside each week or each month, and then commit to that, hopefully in an automated way with an exchange that's going to send your Bitcoin right to you. Okay. So that you can protect it from either people hacking into an exchange, or Rafa, we didn't even cover the exchanges that were actually evil, basically, and just said, yep, you've got Bitcoin, but the Bitcoin wasn't really there. Or the founder faked his own death and disappeared with everyone's Bitcoin, right? I mean, leaving your Bitcoin on an exchange.
You need to tell me that story
about the guy who says bye-bye. Yeah.
Fakes his own death and just like.
No, we'll have to tell you that story. But Rafa thinks that he can set aside $100 a month to dollar cost average his way into Bitcoin. And we think that is an incredible, incredible way to get started. And we want to check in on you over time, Rafa. So we ask each of our guests if they'd be willing to come back on in 9 months to give us an update on their Bitcoin baby. Will you have stacked $900 worth of Bitcoin by then? Will you have found how to build generational wealth, even in a nation state that's trying to crack down on Bitcoin? We want to get those updates from you. So would you be willing to come back on?
Yes, I'll be more than happy to do that.
All right, outstanding. Now, where can we send our Satillionaires if they want to engage with you or the company you work for?
Yeah, so basically you guys can look me up on LinkedIn, or you can visit our website, www.podpitch.com. Again, if your goal is to be invited on other people's podcasts, if we're trying to start a new business, you have a product, you're trying to sell something, books, anything like that. And like, for example, maybe for people that are actually starting their podcasting, if you think growing your channel as a way of growing your channel is being invited on other people's podcasts, we'd be more than happy to help you with that.
Perfect. So podpitch.com, and Rafa is on LinkedIn. Now, our lead sponsor is Ithaca Hummus by The Dip. The flavor that you chose today is jalapeno lime. Lion, let's see how much of a dip you're going to get on that. Boop. You got to put some on there, bro. Huh? I know you had it yesterday. This is what it means to be a podcast host. You eat hummus all day long, whether you like it or not.
It's very spicy hummus.
But luckily, this hummus is delicious, and I'm going to serve as your taste buds in the studio today here, Rafa. Cheers.
Despite the sound of that bite, I know that it's delicious.
Our show is nothing without the ASMR crunch, Rafa. People come for the Bitcoin, but they stay for us. Boom. All right. So that's absolutely delicious. Nice, beautiful heat that's not too hot. Fresh lime taste, creamy hummus. You know, that's available here in America, Rafa, but I know that my co-host, Chris, the founder and CEO, you know, he must have visions of going worldwide, just like Bitcoin. So hopefully Ithaca hummus will be in the Philippines sometime soon. But
we're going to send you a hummus gift card, though. We're still going to mail you a hummus gift card.
I like that. And if Pod Pitch ever brings you over to America for some kind of summit or sales kickoff or whatever, you can try it then. So let's make Rafa his offer. Let me see if I can reach this here, because I don't think you can.
Would you like $50 in cash, which
you're going to hold that up?
It might be converted to pesos by the time it hits you.
Okay. All right. So,
or $50 in sats.
Now, let's calculate how much that is before you choose, Rafa. All right. So, you got $50 over here, which, by the way, if you said 100 pesos was $2, then we're basically looking at 2,500 pesos right here, okay? 2,500 pesos, aka $50, or we've got UTX Oracle over here, Simple Steve's objective price of Bitcoin. He's an absolute Chad for discovering how to do this. We're going to take $104,594 per Bitcoin as the confirmed on-chain price. That means you could stack 47,803 sats. Which one is it going to be?
Yeah, so I think it's a no-brainer for me. Sats all the way.
Sats all the way.
Let's go.
Yeah. And guess what? Can your nation state stop me from sending the Satoshis directly to you?
Probably not. We will always find a way.
I can tell you, they literally can't. It's impossible, because I control these Satoshis, and I will send them directly through the Bitcoin network to the wallet you control. It will not go through US dollars. It will not go through Philippine pesos. It will not go through an exchange. Bitcoin is electronic peer-to-peer cash. I can send it from myself to you with no interference. Incredible. So take that, nation state. 47,803 Satoshis directly into your wallet, whether they like it or not. If you win the 10 million Satoshis, that goes directly into your wallet, whether they like it or not. And
if you're within the first 100K subscribers, you have a chance to get 10 million sats dropped on your house via a plane. Also, we are on the road to number 99, my mother. And Sat Chats is educational purposes only and should not be construed as financial advice.
Thank you for that. Pretty good. I still have a few things to say, though. Oh. Bro's trying to end the show here. So 47,803 Satoshis right to Rafa. You bring our scoreboard to 75 guests who have stacked the sats, along with 7 who need a little bit more time. This is the part of the show where we do ask you Satillionaires for your value in exchange for ours. And all those things I just said. And all those things that Lion just said about smashing the subscribe button and educational purposes only is all good. Thanks so much for joining us here. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.